Welcome to Finding Freedom. Minor production issues there. I'll clean that up on the back end, but you heard the Pursuit of Freedom intro there, which is not the correct intro. This is, of course, Finding Freedom with John Odermatt. If you want to hear Pursuit of Freedom, which is my new podcast series that I've been doing solely based on entrepreneurship, that airs exclusively on my Finding Freedom solo feed. Of course, this show, Finding Freedom, airs on the Lions of Liberty Network and airs on my Finding Freedom solo feed. So got that out of the way. I'll get that cleaned up next week. I'm playing with some new features here on StreamYard, and as it goes with streaming software, they make upgrades and things don't work properly, but that's okay. So let's get right into it today. Got a really exciting guest for you all. My guest today on Finding Freedom there he is, Ken Madden. So I met Ken, I don't know, maybe 3, 4, 5 months ago. I was a guest on the Weathered Report podcast with previous guest Bruce McGee, and had a really good time talking with these guys. I've actually been on their show twice, and I came across the work that Ken has done with his MaddK Studio, which is it's really impressive work. I'll pull up some of the the artistic work that he offers, and he also does logos as well with that, a bunch of other different things. We'll get into talking about that. Ken is an artist. He's a car guy. He's an entrepreneur. He also hosts another podcast called the MaddK Studio podcast. Ken, welcome to Finding Freedom.
Well, thank you. I'm really enjoying your format, what you're working on now, and the show's been fantastic to be here. It's an honor to be able to talk with you, and we really appreciate you of coming on the Weathered Report a few times. It's been an interesting year, let's just say, for everything. You mentioned the podcasts. I got to hand you credit, and to the Lions of Liberty. I've been a Lions of Liberty listener for quite a long time, so I'm a little bit fangirling right here, so just get over it for a second. But one of the things I will say that the consistency of the amount of podcasts and the amount of quality output that you put out, I've had my MaddK Studio podcast for 4.5 years, and I've got a solid 14 episodes. So I understand what it's like to have to create these and stuff. So I just kudos to you guys, and thank you so much for having me on. I look forward to our discussion tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just had last week had Mark Clare on the show. Of course, Mark, formerly of Lions of Liberty, and he's not podcasting at all right now. And it's interesting. He was talking about, like, he got to a point where he was about to go on a trip, and he had 3 podcasts he had to do before he went on the trip in order to stay up to schedule to do it. And he got to a point, it's like that he trained himself that he had to do these podcasts. And then he kind of had like an epiphany, like, I don't have to do the podcast. What if I just don't do it? And it definitely resonated with me, because I have trained myself with this show, Finding Freedom, that I'm going to have a podcast every single week. Now, sometimes it's a solo show. Like once every 8 episodes is a solo show, but most of the time it's a guest, and you have to get that lined up and everything. But you get a system down, you kind of have to keep checking yourself to be like, all right, am I doing the show that I want to be doing? Is this, am I delivering the value I want to? Am I talking to the right audience? And yeah, especially as I've changed from talking solely about, criminal justice stuff, as you're a longtime listener, so you know about Felony Friday. Shifting now to entrepreneurship. I really feel like I found where I want to be with my podcast, but yeah, that's important with I think with any creative work, to be doing something that not only you want to do, but you're delivering value. And I think we'll get to that when we talk about MaddK Studio, because I think you're doing some stuff that you really want to do, and you're passionate about. So excited to dig into that in a minute here. But before we do that, if you could just introduce yourself to my audience, let them know what makes you tick, a little bit more about yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Entrepreneurial. I can't even say it. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been that way since I was in high school. I've always had some kind of side gig. It came from my dad was a musician, and he told me when I was 8 or 9 years old, whatever you do, you always want a little something on the side, a little side hustle of some sort. And for him, his name was Eddie Madden. He was a musician. I got some of his stuff behind me
Oh
there.
yeah.
But he started playing professionally in 1947. I'll give you a quick synopsis. And incredible trombone player, composer and arranger, and piano player. So he had a big band for, I don't know, for until he died actually in 2 years ago. When he was 91 years old. He was still conducting an orchestra at
That's
91 years old.
amazing.
That
Wow.
was awesome. But he was also, because he raised 5 kids, all 5 of us, put all 5 of us through college. And I'm 56. I'm the youngest by 10 years. So, I mean, this was all through the 50s, 60s, and 70s. He's raised 5 kids. My mom was a school teacher. My dad, he needed a steady gig too. So he was a director of music in Brookline High School in Massachusetts. But then he'd come home in the afternoon, he'd compose and arrange music, and then he'd put his tux on, load up the station wagon with the Rhodes keyboard and his trombone and music stands and stuff, and go play a gig, come back at 2 a.m, wake up, do the same thing forever. And he made a really, really great living doing that. And I watched his work ethic and realized, yep, this is something I want to emulate. I also I play drums. That's why there's music behind me, but I haven't played professionally in a long time. I just do it for fun now. This is my room. This is my fake band in this room. I just play music and play to it. A lot easier, a lot less drama.
Makes a
But
nice backdrop too for
yeah,
the
it makes
for
a
the
nice
podcast.
backdrop. Yeah, and I get to my dad. I get to
Yeah.
celebrate him and what he's taught me. But when I got into art, I'm also just a car fanatic. We drove in 69 all the way through 75. We would go on these epic road trips. So we drive from Boston to Alaska. My father was he was the director of the Fairbanks Summer Arts Festival up there, or co-director of it, I should say, with Joe Scott, another fine lady that was put these things together. But anyway, we would drive from Boston with 5 kids in a station wagon, and I'm 2, 3, 4 years old, and we drive 5,000 miles up the Alcan Highway, which was 1,400 miles of gravel back then, to Fairbanks, Alaska. We'd stay there for the summer when my dad worked on this thing, and he'd make money and do it up there, and then we'd come back.
How long? How many days would that trip take back then?
It was usually 11 or 12 days, somewhere in there.
Wow.
And we weren't in a Suburban or a bus or a motorhome or anything for the first few years. We were in a 1969 Chrysler Town and Country station wagon in a 18-foot Shasta trailer. So not even a big trail, 18-foot with 7 people in it. I mean, come on. And 2 teenagers, 2 junior high school kids, and a baby. It must have been hell on earth. I'm probably glad I don't remember it. But anyway, I think that birthed my love for cars. So as I went through school and stuff, all I ever wanted to do was draw cars, and through art classes and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I finally figured out when I came out to Minneapolis to go to college. I went to Minneapolis College of Art and Design. And once again, I wanted to perfect the drawing of realistic drawing of cars. They're hard, they're a hard thing to draw. And I finally developed a process that worked, and I studied very hard, of course, to do it. And my first real entrepreneurial gig was I would come home in the summertime to Boston. I had a 71 Cutlass Supreme, and I drive it from Minneapolis to Boston every summer. And I'd go to car shows with it, and I had a picture of the car under the hood. And I would just see what would happen. I'd just stand there and see what people thought of it. And I'm like, hey, can you do my car? Can you do my car? So I started doing drawings of people's cars. I could take a picture of it. And I was using slide film so I could blow it up big. So, I mean, I'm literally developing slides on a 35 millimeter camera to project it on the wall so I could see it really big as I'm drawing it, so I get all the detail. But I would make, I think I was selling it for $125 each. My dad thought I was nuts. He's like, you're not getting enough money for these, And I'm like, Dad, but I don't want to price myself out of the market. Well, I had more work than I could do. I'd make $10,000 in the summer just going to car shows and drawing pictures of cars. So in your intro, when you mention, this is something that you can do what you want, entrepreneurial, it's hard work, but you are doing what you want.
Yeah.
And I discovered it then at 19, 20, 21 years old. And when I moved out to Minneapolis area, I'm in Wisconsin now, but I lived in Minneapolis metro area for many, many years. And for whatever reason, and again, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to run into problems. I could not get the client base. I'm like, car guys are car guys, right? Anywhere in the country? Not at all. I mean, I was printing money out east. I come out here, I could barely get anybody to buy a drawing. They
That's
all wanted
interesting.
they wanted
Huh.
something painted on the car. Well, I didn't know how to do that. So what do? You learn how to do that. I'm like, I still want to do the car thing. Now I can actually draw on the car. Well, how cool is this? So I worked for a place. It was funny because I played in a band for a while in the 90s, and there was a bass player in another band. His name was Biscuit, and his bass got ripped off, and it was a custom painted bass, had
That was
flames on it and
that
stuff.
was his legal name, Biscuit.
Biscuit. Well, he ended up playing with Lonnie Brooks and those guys, and he was a good friend. But anyway, his bass got stolen, and so we played a benefit to buy him a new bass, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was at the Fine Line Cafe in Minneapolis. Fine, awesome place. And the guy that actually painted the bass, that did the custom painting, was there too. And I met him. Well, he needed a T-shirt designed, and I wanted to shave the door handles and do some body work on the car and didn't know how to. So we traded. But I only had one car. So I did the T-shirt for him. I only had one car. He's like, yeah, just leave it and we'll take care of it. I'm like, well, I can't leave it. And he's like, well, then we can't do this because you can't just drive it home. And I'm like, well, can you show me what I need to do? That would be just as important to me. Long story short, I worked for him for 4 years, learning the auto body, custom painting, airbrushing, molding frames, welding, taking quarter panels off cars and welding new ones on there that are different, and chopping, making hot rods. It was awesome. And we got an offer to get bought out and make it a national thing. But the guy I was working with just couldn't see past well, it's not going to be my company anymore if we do this. I'm like, yeah,
Right.
but we'll be making 7 figures building the best cars in the country. Who cares who's come? I thought it was about the artwork, And so you learn lessons there. You're like, okay, working for somebody, even if they're a good friend and something like that, isn't always the answer, but it was still good. That led me into my own. I left him and I just started painting motorcycles in my garage, and that
Yeah,
took
we, we
off.
we were talking. I forget when we were talking about this, but yeah, you said you had like a few years when you were basically full time
Yeah,
entrepreneur, right? Yeah.
yeah, and I was just full timing it. Part of the thing is the girl I was dating, who her and I didn't get along at all. She got pregnant magically. Now we know what causes that, but we're married now, so I can make jokes. Like we always joke, we get the divorce out of the way first. It's a lot easier. I get half her stuff. That was the way that worked. So we had a little daughter, and I'm like, I don't want to put her in daycare. And my which was soon to be wife at that time was in school to learn how to do graphic design, some stuff. And I'm like, well, I'll just quit my job and I'll just work from home. And I didn't even think twice about it. I'm like, I'll just quit my job and work from home. I was living cheap, and I had a couple of roommates. So I mean, I only had to make $800-900 a month, and all my expenses were covered.
Mm-hmm.
This was in the 90s, so I started doing that, and that's where I learned things about, like, the city doesn't love you running a body shop out of your garage in a twin home in the suburbs, stuff like that.
Permits. What
Yeah,
are those? Yeah.
permits, schmermits. So anyway, long story short, I got into a motorcycle company that was making their own motorcycles, making full motorcycles. It was called McAllister Motorcycles, which then morphed into Norton, which morphed then into Viper Motorcycles, which got me my first real corporate job at a company called Kuryakin that does motorcycle parts and accessories. And so I ended up working there of just purely from the need of, now I had 2 kids. We had gotten married in 2000, had 2 kids. We wanted to have her stay home and not have to work. And we had just bought a house in Andover, Minnesota. And I was like, all right, well, let's just figure it out. So quit your job. We'll just figure it out. And this is the risk-taking side of the entrepreneurism. She was pretty nervous about it. How are we going to make ends meet and stuff? I'm like, I got this. I didn't have it. I had no idea what I was doing. I was in so many failed businesses. The only person I could count on was me. And I think you're feeling that right
Mm-hmm.
now. And it's good and bad. Those days you wake up and you're like, I don't know if I can do this. And there's other days that you wake up looking at the day before and you're like, I can't believe I did that,
Yeah.
and it just pushes you forward to the next day. But through that, I ended up working at Kuryakin. It was a good job. I kept my side business. I kept the painting business on the side. I was painting cars and I would paint cars at the shops. They would come and hire me to come and do like, the graphics, flames, and all kinds of different stuff. But the motorcycles I still did at home. I put together a nice little shop there. And that led to the company I was working at was just starting to get a little corporate-y. I mean, we're making motorcycle parts, guys. It doesn't need to be corporate and ISO 9000 and all the BS that comes with all that. We're making stuff nobody needs. We're making stuff they want.
Yeah.
It should be fun and creative. And it started not being that way. They got bought out. There was a parent company and stuff, and it started getting to be bad. And I was looking for a way out when the owner of that company's son came to me, and I'd known him for many years because I worked for his dad. He says, "Hey, do you want to get together, you and me and the other two guys, and start our own company?" And I'm like, "Hell yes! When do we start?" We had to wait 5 months, but we started a company called Ciro, CIRO, and we do motorcycle parts and accessories for Harleys, Indian motorcycles, and Goldwings. And we just had our 10th anniversary at the end of May, and that's been a huge success. I'm really excited about. So that is as an entrepreneur, getting together with people. We're well funded. It was having made all those mistakes about what not to do, I knew that this was going to be a good move, and I was able to make that decision from an educated point. And I'm not. It's gone very, very well, but we didn't make any money for 4 or 5 years.
So with that, when you do start up a business, you take on partners. Did you discuss that ahead of time? Like, we might have a few years where we're not taking a salary, or, I mean.
Well, like I said, it was the owner of the company, Arrow, super guy, and he's like, you guys don't need to worry about any of that stuff. I've got that. What he needed from us was the ideas. I'm a product designer, so come up with the ideas, come up with cool stuff. And when I say we didn't make any money, we certainly did, but we just turned it all right back around and put it back in the company. That's what you do.
Yeah.
And because we're going to build, we're a design house basically that designs products, and we've got 550 products that 3 of us have designed over the course of 10 years.
Is it a C Corp entity?
It's a S, I believe.
S Corp. Okay.
I believe it's S Corp.
Because if it's a C Corp, you really don't want to make money.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. But anyway, it was so all in all, that's great. The company's been great. I have an awesome time. It's back to, today I just sat there and drew cool new ideas for cool new products. That's what I was doing all day. And that's why, so, on a inside baseball moment for your listeners, John had asked me to send him a couple sentences, and I got so into the drawing and stuff I was doing today, and I never did. So about 4:30 this afternoon, I'm like, "Oh crap, I'm really sorry." He's like, "I got this." So, but I get excited about that. A new part comes in, even though I've designed hundreds of them, I've got dozens and dozens of patents in my name. The new part comes in. I'm a 9-year-old on Christmas morning. I cannot wait to open the box, see the sample, see as this thing is going to work, and all that. It's still exciting, but it's still, I look at it as, it's a family-owned business. We're small. There's only 15 of us in the whole company. We look a lot bigger. If you go to the website, ciro3d.com, CIRO3D.com, you can see some of the stuff there that we've done. But eventually, I'm going to want to retire. I'm 56 now, perfect health, everything's good. Within, I'd imagine 10 years or so, I'd probably want to retire. So everything I've done up to this point, with pinstriping, airbrushing, the artwork, I developed this MaddK Studio company that right now I'm just a sole proprietor. So it's not an S Corp or an LLC or anything. It doesn't make sense to do it until I start making more money. Then I'll have to do that. But at under $10,000 a year or so, like that was basically what I do now. It's fine, but I'm building this into my retirement. So when I decide I want to leave this company, I'm never going to retire and stop working. I'm too creative. Like I said, I watched my dad work until he was 91 years old. He didn't have to. He had plenty of money. He could have stopped working when he was 65 and just, ridden his right off into the sunset. But I want to keep creating. There's so much I want to do and so much I want to learn. 4 years ago during COVID, I took up painting with acrylics. Everything I'd done before is marker, colored pencil, ink, airbrush, that kind of stuff. And I said, I want to become a painter again, like I did when I was in high school, for oils and acrylics. What my dad would call a real artist. I've done all these things. I've got all these patents. I've got all this stuff that I've done and accomplished in my life. And I did this experimental just painting of a tree next to a stream on a piece of flooring that I had just put some flooring down. Well, I brought it down and gave it to my dad. I showed it to him. Hey, look at this. And he goes, oh, look at this. He's showing it to everybody. Look at my son's a painter. He's an artist.
Real artist.
I'm like, Dad. He goes, yeah, that motorcycle stuff's cool. I'm like, yeah, it's made hundreds of millions of dollars for people. This is just a piece of wood that I painted a tree on. But that made me happy. So that's kind of what gets me to where I'm at now. Is now it's getting serious of the next 5 years to build MaddK Studio into something that can support my wife and I.
Yeah. And if you're watching the video, I'm pulling up MaddKstudio.com here. That's MaddK Studio.com to look at. I mean, really, I wish I could make these bigger. I wonder if I zoom in. Really just amazing. Like, I really can't overstate like how
I appreciate that.
The detail on these is just incredible. So dad's town car. So
that is my father's town car.
My dad actually had a similar town car to this that was baby blue, but looked very similar.
Very cool. No, I still have that car. Matter of fact, I drove it to work today. And what you're looking at here, those are the first two were marker renderings and colored pencil. And then as you're scrolling down, that one is this is one of the first acrylic paintings I did. It was a cat for my sister. Actually, it's my sister's cat.
How'd you get the cat to stay still for so long?
It was dead. No, it's a picture she had of the cat that had passed away. Yeah. So, but it was cool because I had done so many cars and things like that. As I, again, you have to build your skills, and you need to be able to learn new ways of doing things, more efficient ways of doing things. So I started taking a lot of YouTube university classes on how to paint this, how do you paint fur? How do you paint this? How do you paint that? And it's enhanced my drawings now because now the, landscape and things like that, all the stuff like that Camaro that you're looking at right now, they sent me a picture of that car from 1974. It was blurry in front of their house. And this was a present for someone's grandfather. This was a car he had in the 70s. And because I'm a car guy, I could find all the rest of the pictures. And I'm like, all right, I see it's got rally wheels on there. I know what that looks like. It's got the rally straps. So it's an RSSS. It's going to say Camaro on the side. The little details that make that car that car. I was able to go on the internet and find to recreate, the drawing. And then I just made up the background. But all that came from learning, doing more paint work and things like that. Or I'm trying to just experiment with drawing a tree next to a river to show my dad. Well, that tree next to the river turned into the trees next to the lake on this painting. That was done for a client. So again, you never know where your inspiration is going to come from or where it's going to lead to, but always stay open to it, as I guess would be my advice on that.
So maybe it varies greatly. I have no idea, but I asked the question anyway. Like, when you have a project like this for a car, you're doing a commissioned artwork, how long does it take from like that initial research that you were just talking about, if you need to find some comparable pictures to get the drawing, to actually creating it to the end product?
I try to keep it within about a 3-week window. So and I learned this from when I was painting motorcycles. Again, you never know where it's going to work for you when you learn something. Is painters and artists have a really well-deserved reputation of taking forever to do something. So I learned with two things. One was, I call it the curse of the prepay. Don't pay me first. I want to win at the end, So when I was painting bikes, I had to buy materials. So I would take half down and half when it was done. But I'd tell them, I said, I'm not bringing any of your parts in until I can work on it within 10 days. I can start. I'm not taking it in. And it worked well. So I do the same thing with artwork. I don't take a job in until I can start it. And then I try to turn it around in 3 weeks is usually my goal. And I can usually do it. And like this one was actually, it was a week because it was right before Christmas. And they're like, I know this is last minute. And I'm like, well, I know what it's like to receive a gift like this. This is something that a car guy would never, this, you can get t-shirts and posters, but it's different. This is your car. This was your car in every detail, hand drawn, put up there. Most of the people call me back and said, "Oh, he cried when he opened it." And I'm like, "When? I did okay." you know?
Yeah. So is your business entirely referral based? Are you doing any sort of marketing at all?
I do a lot of marketing. So, of course, all of the social media stuff I do, but also I do a lot of in-person marketing. In our world of social media and everything's online, we forget that it's, just going and talking to people face to face is still very, very effective. In fact,
For
the
sure.
most effective that I get. I talk to people face to face all summer long at car shows and different cruise nights and different events that I go to. And, I put on a couple car shows a year, and those are my main marketing places, because I can talk to the people with the cars, and I never sell. This is another thing. Don't sell your stuff. You don't, if it's good, talk to the people, because they'll tell you what they want, what they're thinking about, what they need.
Hmm.
And for me, my busiest time of year is coming up right now, is on the summertime, when everyone's seen the car show. You sit there for a while. You're there for 4 or 5 hours. What it gets a little boring after you've done 100 of them. So you're walking around talking to people, and this is where the wives of the car guys talk to me. And they're like, "Oh, his birthday's coming up. Oh, we have an anniversary. Christmas is coming up. Oh, Father's Day," all that stuff. Um, can you do something for that? Can you come? Yeah, I can come up with something. Let's do it. And I work from images. So I usually say, let me take pictures of the car right now. And this won't cost you anything. There's no obligation. I'll just take pictures of the car when no one's looking at the car show. And I'll take 20 or 30 pictures of it and just file it somewhere. And that person will call me at the end of November and say, "Oh, can you still do this?" Absolutely. I got the pictures. I'm all set to go. It's an easy thing. Um, you can go through my website. I can send you an invoice. I mean, I make it so easy for the person that I don't have to sell anything,
Mm-hmm.
and they get this great thing. And almost always the next year they do another one, or one of their friends buys one from me, or something like that. It's a customer service deal, because you just need to make sure that that customer feels very comfortable and know, like, and trust you. Basically, it's very simple. So
Yeah, it's a especially with something like this, it's a relationship business, right? Because
exactly.
they're entrusting you with something very heartfelt, right?
Hmm.
Giving a gift, something like a car that is so close to someone's heart, to create something that needs to be spot on. So yeah, that makes total sense.
And all of that drives people to online, because they go online. Every drawing I do, I learn. And again, technology is a beautiful thing. The invention of the GoPro has made my life so much easier. So I've got a little rig, just a bar that goes over my desk, and I put a GoPro on it, aimed straight down. Well, GoPros you can set to do time lapse. So without having to do anything else, just hit the button and it starts recording a time lapse. So every one of these that I do for somebody, there's a time lapse video of it too, and I
Really?
talk yeah, and I talk
Wow.
to them about it too. Is there a favorite song that person has, or what was, do you want to record something, like I do a recording with a person like this, and they could talk over the drawing to make a special part of the gift.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a whole package. And then I'm a photographer as well, so I take a nice picture of it too. So there's a really high resolution digital image they can use as desktop backgrounds, or if they want to make T-shirts, I can do that. I've expanded out with one of my other co-stars, I guess, or co-hosts, um, Jason from horribledesigns.com. He can take any of my art, and I've licensed him now, so he can take any of my art and make it into mugs, mouse pads, T-shirts, whatever. And I get a little piece of that
That's
action.
cool.
So I send people right to him, and he takes care of them. Again, his customer service is incredible. So I never have to worry about, oh, he's not going to get it done right, or it's going to mess up. So you need to get good people that you're in business with and dealing with, even peripherally. But overall, the shows in person drive people online to see what you're doing. They want to show their friends. They share your page. They go to the website. Um, and I'm on, I mean, everything. So I'm LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, TikTok. I mean, just pretty much everywhere.
So do you do anything with marketing like on TikTok or Instagram with reels where you're showing, just like you were saying before with the GoPro from start to finish of the creation?
Absolutely. So I base it all off. I have a YouTube page that has barely any traction at all, but it's kind of like a little.
YouTube sucks.
Oh, it's a storehouse.
Can't,
It's a
can't
storehouse
stand
for
YouTube.
it. I'm like, but yes, I put all those videos up. I also have them on my website. Um, I do shorts, reels, and like when I make new prints of something like that, usually I'll do a presentation about it, and then it's just out there.
Mm-hmm.
You never know what's going to hit, and this is, I've had some really good success with some of these videos, and other ones that I'm like, oh, this is going to knock it out of the park, and like 7 people look at it, and 6 of them are my family.
So
But
oh,
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
But it's just you never know what's going to hit. But I do create that. During the summer, I don't do as much as I do in the winter months. I'm up here in Wisconsin. In the summer, I'm outside, and I don't want to sit and edit videos all the time. It's a decision I made. It might be the wrong decision from a marketing standpoint, but
Mm-hmm.
when it gets to be fall, like where we're getting to now, all the way through about next April, I'll be creating tons and tons of videos and content and things that I can use for over the next summer as well. So I try to
Yeah.
kind of pack it heavy towards that, and then I can pull from it later on.
So are there a lot of competitors doing similar things, especially with regards to the cars? Is there competition there?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few people doing what I do. And a lot of them are absolutely incredible, and some of the other people are just getting started. I mean, there's people that I follow that there's one guy, Tom Fritz, and he's a artist that's he's made it. He's multimillionaire, and I get inspiration from people that I look at their stuff and go, I don't think I'll ever be able to do that, but I'm sure as hell going to try.
Yeah.
And it's a niche enough market that even though there's competition out there, it gets down to styles. I kind of have a style that is my style, and other people have different styles. Some people do it on paper. I'm painting on canvas, and when I do the pencil drawings, they're on illustration board. That's a colored board, so it's either gray or a tan colored board. So the car really pops off of there. It's a real different look. It's kind of modeled after the mid 60s magazine ads where you'd see the renderings in Time Life magazine of the car.
Which
You know,
which tab which tab is that under on your website? I'll pull it up. Is that
it would be, well, let's see, the any of the ones that you show the cars, it would be About Me or What is MaddK? Anyone. Yeah, there you go. That's perfect. So like that Ferrari in the middle there, that's all
okay?
markers and colored pencil.
Wow.
The Ford underneath it, that's that hot rod, was a local guy. I did that one for myself because I just loved his car. The purple car on the right is a Caprice station wagon that I redesigned it into be an El Camino, and the guy actually built the car, which was kind of cool.
That is cool.
And there's that little picture there is a picture of me. You might be able to click on that; it might get bigger. So that's 1990. Yep, there you go. That's 1990. Nick's Ice Cream at the car show. That, like I said, that's how I sold. I go to car show, and I still do the same way today. I got an easel under the hood, put a picture of the car there, some pictures, some business cards,
That's
and
pretty cool.
I'm 100 pounds heavier than that now, but it was that was a really cool place. I learned a lot there. So just attention to detail, customer service. Um, you have to have the talent to do something, but you don't have to be the best at it. You just have to be good enough that when someone looks at it, they go, "Wow, that's really good." It's the imposter syndrome. I felt that big time when I first started doing it. When I was that 19-year-old kid standing in
Mm-hmm.
front of my car, who's going to pay me $100 to paint a car? Oh my God, I felt bad taking their money. And in fact, this is a good story. I had a guy out here in Minnesota that I met that had a car collection, and he commissioned me to do 10 drawings, 10 different cars he did. And I was afraid I was going to lose the job. So instead of charging him 150 for each one, I charged him $80. And I did all 10 cars for $800, which to me at the time, I was like, this is great. $800, right? Like that's going to save your world. But 30, let's see. So that was 1991. So yeah, 32 years later, I ran into this guy at a car show, and he's 87 years old now. And he says, "Hey, I'm downsizing and I'm selling the house. Yeah, big house with a gallery with all these
Mm-hmm.
cars and stuff in it." He goes, "You want you want those drawings back? I'm not going to have a place for them. I love them and I hate to go. They're all framed and stuff for you. And let's meet and I'll give them back to you." So I was like, wow, this guy remembered and was touched enough to
Wow.
remember that he wanted to give them back. And I'm like, "You want your $80 a piece back for him?" We had a laugh. He goes, "No,
That's a
no."
30-year return.
Yeah, he goes, I've gotten 30 years of pleasure out of these things. I think that I got my
That's
money out
cool.
of it." And he gave them all back to me, and I got them hanging up in another room. But it was really cool on a few levels of just to see, because it was kind of in the infancy when I was just getting going doing this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And to see, because like every one of the cars I did was a breakthrough piece. So in business, entrepreneurism, and just any creative outlet, whether it's writing, drawing, painting, music, you hit you have places where it's just you make a quantum leap all of a sudden. You're like, "I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying, okay, now I can do it. No, wow, now it seems easy. Now I can do this all the time. It's repeatable." Like
Mm-hmm.
playing pool, put English on the ball when you're in pool. Once you figure it out, it's like, "Oh, I got this." And every
Or
one
like
of those,
playing catch with a baseball. My daughter
yeah,
with a softball. My daughter's really working hard at getting better at that. All of a sudden, bam! It just clicks, and then it's like, how I can't remember. How could she not do this before? It's like it's so
yeah,
so simple now. Yeah,
kids are great like that. I got two of
yeah.
them, and watching them grow. But as just getting through all that stuff and getting to the point where you see every one of those drawings that I did for this guy, because I was early in the thing, early in my process, every one was a breakthrough drawing. So to see him back again, I'm like, I
Wow.
remember. Yeah, this is how I figured out how to reflect trees into the trunk of a 40s car that's all round, and how to distort the reflections to make it look, believable,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. And so it was great to get them back. Moving forward now, I've got the story. So when you talk about the marketing part of it,
Mm-hmm.
this is social proof. I can tell that story like I just told it to you. Now, someone that's looking to get a drawing done that's going to hear that story, so I'm like, wow, he had a guy that's got 10 cars 30 years ago, and he gives him the drawings back because he wanted him to have them. Oh, they must be good. I get calls from people that I haven't talked to in 25 years that said, "Hey, remember you did my father's car? He got a different car now. Do you still do that?" So people remember this, and they seek me out. And that's all because I built a relationship. People buy from
Yeah.
people. They don't buy from companies. And that's the important part.
So with a business like this, with MaddK Studio, obviously you're limited on scaling based on your time, based on your resources. You have a full-time job that takes up, I'm sure, a significant amount of your time.
Yeah, full-time plus.
So so there's a limited amount of customers that you can take on. There's only so much time you can dedicate to it. And
Right.
you talked about maybe 10 years from now, 15 years from now, be doing MaddK full time and scaling it. But maybe once you get to that point and you do decide to scaling a creative business like this, is it really just is it the price point going up? Because you can't really duplicate yourself.
It's twofold. So one is the price point going up. And as I got started again doing the car portraits 2 years ago, the prices started at like $250. And I
Mhm.
was so busy, I couldn't do it. So I doubled my prices. And I'm just as busy,
Wow.
but I doubled my prices. So now my time I'm getting paid much more for. The other thing I did is to scale it is I'd make prints of artwork. So I'm doing some of my own artwork and making prints of them. Now I
Nice.
don't have to make every single one. And I've got signed and number ones you can buy. I've got some inexpensive ones. So I've got prints available from $10 up to like $60. I think is my most expensive one. So the more reasonable prices to get people interested in the art. Okay, you can't afford, $500 to a $2,000 for a big painting, but you can afford $46 for this cool print of one that you did like, that's framed and ready to hang on your wall.
Hmm.
So scaling it that way I can do. The other thing The reason why I didn't call it like kenmaddenart.com, it's MaddK Studios for a reason, because my plan is to grow that into a gallery, an online gallery of other artists as
Mm.
well that can also, that, I'll work with. And most artists don't understand how to market their stuff. And there's a lot of companies out there that'll market for you. And they're like, oh, we'll set your website up. You did that, but they take a huge chunk of it. So coming from my retail and product design background and how to price
Mhm.
and how to put things together, my plan here is to work with artists to help them grow and say, look it, all right, you did this cool painting. What do you want for it? I don't know. Okay, how much time did you have into it? I don't know. All right, how much do you make an hour? I don't know. So you start out with those questions because
Yeah.
that's what, just like you asked, how long does it take? My real answer is I don't know. It takes as long as it's done. I tell people 3 weeks, like I told you, because
Mhm.
3 weeks from start to finish is about what I want it to be. Some of these drawings might take me 3.5 hours. Other ones might take me 10 hours. I don't, um, I, I want the art to be right. So
Mhm.
if it takes me 10 hours to do a something that should have taken me 7 hours to do, I don't care. I don't worry about I'm losing money or anything like that. I need it to be right because I'm in the building phase. Later on, I can make sure that everything's, making money. But just having the ability to, I lost my train of thought. I'm channeling my Kamala Harris right now. Uh, I grew up. It was really in a middle class family,
Middle
and
class neighborhood.
it was a nice
Everyone
neighborhood.
cared about their yards where
Yeah,
I grew
people
up. Yeah.
people mowed lawns, and yeah, we'd go pheasant hunting because I have a gun. So but anyway, I digress.
Yeah,
We
you,
got
you
into
you were
politics.
talking about yeah, we were talking about the pricing and scaling. I
Yeah,
think you pretty much got through it, but if I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to hit on.
I tend to ramble on, but yeah, that's my goal is to I love helping people get somewhere that they didn't know they could get, and
Hmm.
helping artists grow is something that really interests me. So that's kind of the plan to scale.
Well, speaking of helping artists grow, I know that you and Bruce and Jason and Harkos, at least I think I know this, that you all met in the Nomad Network, which is
Absolutely.
Jason Stapleton's place to help entrepreneurs grow. So tell me a little bit about that origin story, how the four of you came to come together and collaborate on the Weather Report podcast.
Absolutely. Jason Stapleton, when he was doing the libertarian podcast thing, that's where I found him because he had
Hmm.
interviewed Chris Ann Hall, who's a constitutional. Are you familiar with Chris Ann Hall at
Oh
all?
yeah, yeah. She's
Yeah.
been on Lines of Liberty a few
Yeah,
times.
yeah, that's right. That's right. I should have known that because I've listened to her on there. I think actually that's how I found you guys too, was because you did an interview with her. Anyway, um, Jason had his show. I started listening to his show. I really enjoyed his show. I was very, very involved in politics in the Republican Party in Minnesota for about 12 years. Really involved in the elected office and within the party structure and executive committee kind of level stuff.
Hmm.
Um, so when he switched from, well, I always liked the way he would discuss things because he could really make it refine down a great
Oh yeah.
message to something that was easily understandable. And so I tried to model myself after that. I ended up running some Tea Party groups, and trying to get these guys to listen to a libertarian podcast was pulling teeth. But I got him in there. I mean, I got him in there. But when he switched over to entrepreneurialness, that's when he dumped his political show and went into full entrepreneurism.
Entrepreneurial. Yeah.
Yeah, and then COVID hit, and I had, by that point, I'm like, well, maybe I'll spend $50 with this joker and see if I can, learn anything from one of his courses. And, I took one of his courses for $50 and I couldn't believe the amount of value I got out of it.
Hmm.
It was life changing. And I'm like, I'm going to try this one for 300 and this one for, pretty soon I'm giving him thousands of dollars, and, I'm meeting with him every week. And then he started the Nomad Network. And that's how we all got together from being part of that. And Bruce and Harkos and Jason from Horrible Designs. it was awesome because during the COVID time, if you were had it all, like, I'm small L libertarian. I didn't really fit in the Republican Party very well, but I definitely don't fit in the Libertarian Party
I'm
either.
in the same boat. I'm right
I
there
just
with you.
I'm me. That's what I am. I'm the
Yeah.
party of one. But um, with all these people having the same kind of ideas together, and we were collaborating. The Nomad Network was a wonderful place. There's nowhere like it, because it was a very social media platform like Facebook visually, but it was collaborative. So you could go in there and say, "Man, I just made a sale of $6,000 today," and you're not going to get anyone say, "Oh, must be nice. Oh, you could have got 7." None of that
Yeah.
shit. It was always, "Wow, that's great. How did you do it? Is there, what worked? Did you learn something here or there?" And then other guys would come in and just said, I just saw sold an ebook, a 10-page ebook that I wrote for $3, and he got just as much accolades as someone that had a big,
Hmm.
$10,000 deal. It was just this perfect storm of COVID. Everyone's at home. People wanted to do something. It was the only positive thing happening. And it was fantastic. And every Wednesday we'd get together for what we'd call the winner's circle. And this is where Bruce and me and the other guys met a lot, because we'd all join in there. And it was your opportunity to talk. Jason Stapleton's he's a coach. If you don't know who he is, just go to
Yeah.
jasonstapleton.com. He's a marketing and branding coach, and he's brilliant. And if you want to hire him for a day, it's $12,500. He'll come to your office and work with you for a day. And I'm looking at this going, all right, I already paid him a bunch of money to be part of this. I'm getting a lot out of it. I mean, I 10x'd my investment with him. I mean, it was that good. But I'm thinking, so every Wednesday night for an hour, I can sit and talk with this guy for nothing. Why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah.
But what I didn't realize is that with the rest of the, I think he had at the height of it about 1,800 or 1,900 people in the Nomad Network. And on these Wednesday night get-togethers, there'd be, 8 of us, maybe 20 on a big night. So it was really one-on-one, and we're all helping each other. And, I got a lot of work out of there, but I never tried to, because the biggest rule on the Nomad Network is you can't advertise. You can't advertise your wares. You can't farm or mine for any kind of work there. But if someone asks you, then go ahead and take the work. It was a great platform, because there was no ads and it was no nothing. It was fantastic. So as and Bruce and I really got along, because we're both musicians, and we started collaborating across. He's in California, I'm in Wisconsin, and I've got a recording set up here. He's got one at his house. So we started doing like little just doing some songs, intros for other people's podcasts that are on the network. They're
Oh,
like, "Oh, I
nice.
want music. I want to do something." We're like, "Well, what do you need?" "I need 30 seconds." "Oh, well, let's just do something for you." So we did a few of those, and it was a lot of fun. And Jason from Horrible Designs lives only an hour away from me, and so him and I got together on a lot of. I helped him, try to develop his business a little bit, with some artwork and some different ways of doing things. He already had it going pretty well, and now he's flourishing. He's doing really well with that, which is great. And Chris Harkos, who he's a co-host on there once in a while, but he's doing his own thing right now, and he started a business helping hip hop artists market their music. Again,
Yeah.
kind of like what I want to do with painting artists, graphic artists. He's doing with hip hop artists, of when you get started, this is what you need to do. You need a website, you need to do this, and he can help you get that all set up. And so, but everyone's driven, and we're all, when we started the Weathered Report, we liked it because there was, um, you know, uh, I'm Gen X, Bruce is a boomer, and we had a couple of millennials, and this was great, because we all had different outlooks on things, and it makes for an interesting show. And I learned a lot from these guys.
Bruce is a boomer. He must be like a true baby boomer. He's got to be at the
Yeah,
you know the
he's 60, 65,
yeah.
65, 66, somewhere in there. Yeah. So he barely made the boomer part. I'm 68, so I'm solidly in Gen X.
Yeah. But
I'm the drink from the hose, sit on the trunk of the convertible car driving around town drinking beer while I was smoking. Kind of Gen Xer, I guess.
I have a little bit of that in me. I'm technically a millennial, but I'm the part of the millennial generation that, we grew up, I remember growing up without, we didn't have computers, obviously didn't have phones. We drank out of the hose. You just went out and played with your friends and you came home, just, before it got dark out. So I have a little bit of that in me, but then I also, when I was in high school, that's like when AOL Instant Messenger came out. So I had that, that exposure to that. So there's like a mini generation of like 6 or 7 years. I think is very different than Gen X, and definitely very different than millennials.
Yeah, I
But
think there was
yeah.
there was a gateway right there.
Mm-hmm.
In the what year you were born, if I can ask?
1983.
Yeah, so I was gonna say like 83 to 90. It's like, okay, you still grew up in the old world where there weren't cell
Mm-hmm.
phones and weren't these things, but you watched them come in, and really they came in at the point where, you're a teenager and you could really focus in on them.
Right.
And the guys that you're maybe your parents are a little bit older than me, were they just missed it. They didn't get the technology.
Yeah,
You
it's
know
it's
it.
it's kind of funny. It's a funny position. So yeah, we taught all our parents how to use technology,
Yeah,
and now we're teaching our kids how to use it.
yeah, exactly. Well, it
Both
was it
sides.
was always a thing growing up in the 80s, with VCRs. We had a
Mm-hmm.
VCR with a remote control, but the remote control was a 20-foot wire that plugged into the front of the VCR. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. But my parents still had to ask me to do anything. Oh, the clock's blinking 12 again. You got to fix that, Kenny, will you? How do I get this? I'm like, you can record whatever you want on the TV there. What? Oh, I didn't know you could do that. I'm like, yeah, we could record it and watch it later. Oh, wow. This is some technology. Yeah, then he got a linear tracking. I'll go way back for it. He got a linear tracking Luxman turntable. My dad did. He says, I'm finally buying a nice stereo you kids won't ruin. And he
Mm-hmm.
bought a Luxman, and it was a linear tracking. So, the normal turntables, you pick the needle up and put it down. With a linear
Yeah.
tracking, just tracked across like this.
Okay.
It was like the real, it was supposed to sound a lot better and stuff like that. Turns out it's just a pain in the ass, because it's calibrating all that stuff, and having it work after 3 years is impossible. But anyway, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I mean, when I was on the weather report, I've really enjoyed both of my, times on the show. Big fan of what you guys are doing, and
Cool.
wish
Thank
you all
you.
great success with that, as I do with MaddK Studio and everything else you got going on. But we are just about out of time here today. But before I let you go, if you could give me, plugs on MaddK Studio, everything else, your social medias, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. MaddKstudio.com, MaddK Studio.com is my website, and you can go anywhere on any of the social media, type in MaddK Studio, you'll find me. Right now, the plug I will do is, it's something called Inktober, where there's
Hmm.
a list that poof magically appears on the internet that has a word for every single day in the month of October, and the goal is to draw something that depicts that word, whatever you want, every day. And I've been doing it for many years, and I developed that last year into a coloring book after doing the 31 drawings. I'm doing the same thing this year. So if you want to follow along, you can follow what I'm doing. But even better, if you just search hashtag Inktober on especially
Interesting.
Instagram, it's a rabbit hole, guys. You're going to go down because you'll see the word, what it is, and everyone's different idea of it. It's a lot of fun to do. I really enjoy it, and it gets my creative juices going, gets me real fired up. So Inktober, it's called, and that's what I'm doing right now. And you check it out at MaddK Studio all over the internets.
Yes, I definitely will do that. And I am not an artist, but I'm just blown away by how people like you are able to think and create like that. So very cool stuff. But Ken, thank you for coming on the show. I'm sure we'll talk soon, and we'll see you. Have a good night.
Appreciate it. It was my honor to be on with you. Listened to many years, so thank you for having me on.
All right, thank you. All right, that is my interview with Ken Madden. I will link to everything that we talked about, everything he plugged there on the show notes page at lionsofliberty.com. If you guys like this show, Finding Freedom, if you like Brian McWilliams' show, Mean Age Daydream, even if you don't like Brian, I'm just kidding. Everybody likes Brian. And if you like what we do on Fridays, most Fridays, Meme Wars, then please subscribe to the Lions of Liberty Network. Subscribe either on your little listening device in your pocket there on a podcasting app, or subscribe on YouTube, Twitter, Rumble, even Facebook. You can follow us there. Wherever you watch, wherever you listen, we would just love to have you come back every single week. And if you are on YouTube trying to watch us live or watch replays, be sure to hit that notification bell somewhere up above me to make sure you get notified, since we are pretty much shadow banned on there. So go ahead and do that. And if you really like us, consider joining the Lions of Liberty Pride. We're on Patreon. We're on Locals. We're actually going to be doing one of our bonus shows, Conspiracy Corner, tomorrow night. So that'll be, I'm recording this live on the 9th, October 9th. On October 10th, we'll do that. It'll release the next day. It's going to be on the docuseries on Netflix, The Octopus Murders, which is super fascinating. Really recommend everyone checking that out. But we'll be talking about that show and the conspiracy surrounding that. So join the Lions of Liberty Pride to hear us dig into that. With that being said, that's all I got for today. I'll see you all next week with another great episode. In the meantime, always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.